Now that Luffy has finally activated his transformation, what kinds of powers can he demonstrate? What is this transformation capable of? Does it further enhance his strength and speed? And what kinds of techniques is he capable of performing? Join us as we discuss all the powers Luffy possesses in his Gear 5 form. Super Strength. With each gear he advances, Luffy becomes stronger. For example, in Gear 2nd, he exponentially increases his strength and speed. In Gear 3rd, he focuses on delivering more impactful blows, adding even more density and power to his attacks. In Gear 4th, he puts more emphasis on speed, but the law of propulsion causes Luffy to further increase the impact of his strikes. And Gear 5th is no different. In this transformation, Luffy possesses such overwhelming strength that he has become capable of carrying Kaido in his dragon form back and forth. There was a moment when he simply played jump rope with Kaido. Seriously, jumping rope with a dragon the size of a building. The dragon Kaido has a body length of approximately 1,000 meters, which certainly gives him tons of weight. This might be the most absurd feat of physical strength in the world of One Piece. Moreover, in this form, Luffy has shown even greater effectiveness in his attacks. Against Lucci, Luffy needed only one concentrated blow to knock him unconscious. Against Kaido, he had to hit a bit more, but we must consider it's Kaido, right? After all, when Luffy was in Gear 4th, he landed hundreds of punches on Kaido, but almost none were as effective, unlike Gear 5th, which caused much greater damage with each strike. Therefore, it's clear that Luffy's strength in this form is absurdly greater. Super Speed. With each gear Luffy advances, he becomes faster. I know, that was a pretty bad joke. But anyway, Luffy's speed in this form hasn't been thoroughly explored yet. However, there are some indications that he really does become faster. At one point in his fight against Kaido, he's falling from the sky. And do you know what he does to glide and move toward Kaido? He simply starts spinning his legs at such a high speed that he manages to hover a little until he reaches Kaido. We could even say that this spinning movement of Luffy's feet is derived from Toon Force, and don't worry, we'll talk about that soon. Other than that, there are no other feats that demonstrate Luffy becoming significantly faster than in his 4th gear. Of course, he is faster, but there is no feat showing a huge difference in speed between 4th gear and 5th gear. Zoan Awakening. Zoan fruits have 3 different stages: hybrid form, full form, and awakened form. In the full form, the user completely transforms their body, losing any resemblance to their original form. In the hybrid form, the user acquires characteristics of the full transformation, but still retains features of their original form, like Kaido, who keeps his dragon scales but remains in his original size. In the awakened form, the user reaches an even more mysterious potential of their fruit. They achieve this after absorbing the entire essence of the being that resides in their Akuma no Mi. For example, Rob Lucci absorbed the essence of the leopard and was able to activate a form that grants him even greater strength and speed. In Luffy's case, it hasn't been mentioned whether this transformation is a hybrid or full form, but it has been stated that it is his awakened form. So, if this Nika transformation is Luffy's awakened form, what would his full form and hybrid form be? Could it be that the rubber body he has always had is just a hybrid form between him and Nika? Well, there's a theory for you to discuss. Paramecia Awakening. Although the Hirohito no Mi belongs to the Zoan category of devil fruits, it can still achieve the awakening level of Paramecia fruits, where the user can transfer the properties of their fruit to their surroundings. In Luffy's case, since he has a fruit that grants rubber powers, he can turn everything he touches into rubber. An example of this occurred during his fight against Kaido, when the Yonko was about to unleash a close-range heat breath. To dodge the attack, Luffy transformed the ground into rubber and used it as a shield against the breath. Additionally, this transformation allows him to convert the skin of his opponents into rubber, as when Luffy transferred the rubber property to Kaido's chest and pulled him upwards. Another moment when Luffy demonstrated this power was when he landed a punch right on Kaido's face and pushed him away, sending the beast's face flying a considerable distance. It is important to highlight the uniqueness of the Hito no Mi, as it not only has a transformation exclusive to Zoan-type fruits, but also possesses the awakening ability characteristic of paramecia-type fruits. Moreover, Luffy has demonstrated the exclusive ability to transfer the property of rubber to other living beings. In this fight, poor Kaido became more rubber than dragon. The guy had his belly expanded and his eyes bulging out. Bone inflation. Gear 5th is undoubtedly a supreme transformation for Luffy, granting him the ability to effortlessly master the abilities of the other gears. For example, Luffy can expand the bones in his body similarly to Gear 3rd, where he blows air into his fingers to make his bones grow exponentially. And the best part is that, in this new transformation, Luffy no longer needs to blow into his fingers to inflate his bones, as, thanks to his fruit's powers, he can grow any part of his body however he wants. This is certainly great for Luffy, since he no longer needs to waste time inflating his bones. He simply raises his arms, makes a giant hand, and can attack in any way he prefers. Muscle inflation. In addition to being able to expand his bones in Gear 3rd, Luffy is also capable of inflating his muscles, exactly like he does in Gear 4th, where he exponentially increases the muscles in his arms, legs, and any other part of his body. And just like with bone inflation, Luffy no longer needs to pump air into his body to expand his muscles. This ability was very effectively used in his fight against Kaido. With his muscles inflated, Luffy made his arms so strong that he could swing Kaido in his dragon form back and forth as if it were something simple. Additionally, Luffy was able to enlarge his fists so much that he could grab Kaido's dragon body with the palm of his hand. And folks, when Kaido is transformed, we can say that he weighs several tons. Therefore, Luffy's strength in this form is so powerful that he can lift objects weighing tons. Toon Force. Well, it's time to talk about Luffy's strangest and funniest ability, Toon Force. This ability essentially allows him to defy the laws of reality, similar to cartoons that use this technique to make scenes more humorous. A classic example of Toon Force is Woody Woodpecker, who always went beyond reality. Characters would make various reactions before falling from a height. They could spin their legs at absurd speeds. They could even make their eyes pop out of their heads. Basically, they did all these unusual things that we, as viewers of cartoons, were used to seeing. In the same way, Luffy is capable of doing all of this. Kaido was incredulous seeing Luffy move in that manner. Everything seemed out of reality. Not only were Luffy's movements strange to Kaido, but the context of the situation also felt surreal. The fact that Luffy is always laughing and fighting Kaido in a satirical manner made the beast question whether it was reality or a fight in a children's story. Additionally, there's a moment that few people talk about, which is Luffy's ability to float. At the end of chapter 1069, we see Luffy talking to Sentomaru while falling to the ground. His fall is slow enough that he rests a bit while descending. This is clearly Toon Force in action, but the question remains, could Luffy fly with this ability? I wouldn't doubt it. After all, during his fight against Lucci, Luffy appeared with glasses out of nowhere. Therefore, it's possible that he has the ability to create anything. Thus, he might be able to create something to fly, thanks to his imagination. But where does this unusual ability of Luffy come from? Well, there are two ways to explain this power. The first is that Nika, the sun god and liberator, had powers limited only by his imagination. In other words, everything he could imagine, he could accomplish. Similarly, this applies to Luffy, who uses his imagination to create these out-of-reality scenes with his Toon Force. The second source of this power is the creator himself, Oda, obviously the creator of the story, right? Oda has publicly said that he is very fond of old cartoons, and they were his inspiration for creating One Piece. At the beginning of the series, in the East Blue arc, you can notice that the arc was quite silly and full of jokes. This was a result of Oda's inspiration from those cartoons. However, throughout the plot, especially after Baratie and Arlong Park, Oda realized that the audience preferred more serious topics, so he made the story a bit more serious than in the early arcs. The fact is that Luffy's ability will change a lot. Imagine him, all playful, fighting against Im or Blackbeard. Gomu Gomu no Fusen. Now let's talk about the techniques used by Luffy in this transformation. This technique was employed when he was swallowed by the beast in its dragon form. Initially, When he didn't use this transformation, he just expanded and ended up with a big belly. But in the fight against Kaido, he used this same technique. Now enhanced with his awakening power, he expanded the rubber properties to Kaido's body, resulting in a huge belly and marking Luffy's little legs. This ability will certainly be very useful against colossal opponents. Even Im-sama might prove this. Imagine Luffy going inside him and making everything enormous. Gomu no Dashutsu rocket. When Luffy entered Kaido's body, he needed a way to get out, right? And to do that, he used his tricks. With this technique, he passed through the beast's eye and held its nose to gain momentum and exit the dragon. In other words, it seems that with his awakening powers, Luffy can also surpass anything he touches. Once he turned Kaido's eyes into rubber, he was able to materialize through the beast's eyes and pass through. Dude, if that's really what Luffy did, he'll be able to pass through any door in his way. Gomu no Kaminari. As if being able to turn the ground and living beings into rubber wasn't enough, Luffy can also transform natural elements into rubber. On this occasion, the Straw Hat managed to hold a lightning bolt while falling. Furthermore, he used his awakening powers to transform the lightning into rubber and shoot it at his opponent. So, if he can turn a natural element into rubber, it means he might be able to turn fire, water, and electricity into rubber. However, he might only be able to do this with lightning, as we saw in the Skypiea arc, where Luffy is immune to lightning, which should make it easier for him to catch lightning with his hands. Fire is different, as it's something Luffy can't hold. Anyway, let's wait and see if Luffy can manipulate other elements besides lightning. Gomu no Giant. Usually in his techniques, Luffy would expand only one limb, whether it was his leg or an arm. But now that, in Gear 5th, he has free access to the expansion of bones and muscles, he uses this ability to become gigantic. To give you an idea, he became almost the same size as Kaido. His fist alone wrapped completely around Kaido's body in his dragon form. Seriously, Luffy's raw strength in this form is so immense that, at one point, he picked up Kaido and spun him around as if he were playing jump rope. He also demonstrated this giant form against Lucci, where after emerging from under the ground, he apparently tried to swallow Lucci. The guy was truly ruthless. Gomu no Bajran Gun. This was the ultimate technique that delivered the final blow against Kaido. To perform this, Luffy expanded the muscles and bones in his fist to a size that almost matched the island of Onigashima. Guys, you have no idea. Luffy's arm became so gigantic that it nearly occupied the entire island, and to make the attack even stronger, he pulled his fist back into his forearm to gain more momentum for the strike. As if that wasn't enough, he also infused his fist with Conqueror's Haki to further amplify the force of the blow. Luffy's punch was so powerful that it not only surpassed Kaido's strength in his flaming dragon form, but also caused the ground of Wano to sink along with Kaido's body. In the end, it was the decisive blow that put an end to the tyrannical reign of the beast pirates in Wano country, once and for all. Mogra Pistol. This technique that Luffy invented is really impressive. You know the Snake Man form, where Luffy can change the direction of his attacks at high speed? Well, in this technique, he punches the ground, turns the ground into rubber, and then changes direction to hit the enemy. He did this against Lucci, which was certainly crucial for defeating the agent even more easily. Gomu no Donmuchi. In the past, Luffy used this technique to wrap himself up completely and gain momentum. He tried to do the same using Gear 5th, but it seems he wasn't fully aware of the strength he now possessed and ended up digging a hole in the ground unintentionally. This is a moment where Luffy demonstrated his inexperience with these new powers. Gomu no Don Rocket. This was the attack he used to finish off Rob Lucci. The interesting thing is that this technique shows very well how Luffy is utilizing his awakening powers to gain an advantage in battle. He basically used a tube from Egghead Island, turned it into rubber, and used it to gain momentum and fall with greater speed towards Lucci. Once he got there, Luffy delivered a blow that caved in Lucci's stomach. Seriously, Luffy's performing so well that it seems like he's been using the powers of this fruit for years. Consequences. But of course, all this power comes at a price. Whenever Luffy uses this transformation for an extended period, he is on the brink of death. The first time this happened was during his fight against Kaido. The beast realized that Luffy was on the edge of death and granted him the necessary honors to depart. Even Yamato and Momonosuke said they no longer felt Luffy's voice. With each passing second, Luffy appeared more aged, but when he reactivated the liberation drums in his heart, he returned to his normal form. Against Lucci, he faced the same problem, but Chopper, who seemed to have some knowledge of these side effects, apparently managed to handle the situation. So, we'll have to keep reading to see how this will unfold. Now that we have Gear 5 in both the manga and the anime, there's just one thing left: your subscription to the channel. Come on, you watched all the way to here and still haven't subscribed? Don't miss the chance to keep up with the One Piece videos coming to the channel. Click down below to stay updated with all the latest news. I'm increasingly bringing videos on these topics to you, but this is only possible with your support. That's it. A big hug, and see you in the next video.